Rikeya Michele, and welcome back to my channel, where commentary meets confidence and we deep dive into the psychology of culture, beauty, and everything in between. Now, what if I told you the way we perceive Black beauty today is vastly different than it was a few years ago? From good hair debates to the digital glow up era, Black beauty standards haven't just evolved, they've been unmade and remade by media, by movements, and by us. Today, we're unpacking how these standards have shifted from the 1990s to the 2000s and what that evolution has done to our self-worth, identity, and self-love. Let's get into it. In the 1990s, conversations about Black beauty were often coded, wrapped in phrases like good hair or light-skinned is the right skin. Chris Rock's documentary Good Hair wouldn't drop until 2009, but the psychology of that term, it was already deeply embedded. It reflected centuries of colonial residue that told Black women their features had to be softened or erased to be beautiful. At the same time, a countercurrent was rising. We also had Queen Latifah rocking Afrocentric looks and unapologetic lyrics, TLC with baggy fits, bold lips, and cropped cuts redefined femininity on their own terms. These weren't women asking for acceptance, right? They were almost declaring it or demanding it. Still, traditional media clung tightly to Eurocentric standards. Magazine covers, beauty ads, and TV screens prioritized slim noses, looser curls, and lighter skin. Even when we saw ourselves, we didn't, fully see ourselves. There was always this undercurrent of palatable Blackness. So yes, there was beauty, but it was boxed, and that box came with rules. Now, I have done a video in the past where I said the 90s was my favorite era, and yes, that still holds true, but I do know that there was a lot of, colorism and a lot of self-hate during that era. I'm not naive to that. I was just painting a video where I was appreciating and uplifting all the good things of the 90s, and even though it had some downsides, it's still my favorite era. Now, in the 1990s, Black beauty was framed through a narrow, often damaging lens, one that prioritized Eurocentric features, lighter skin tones, and chemically straightened hair. So let's be honest, colorism was loud and it was normalized. In movies, music videos, and even magazine ads, light-skinned women with loose curls or perms were often portrayed as more desirable, more marketable, and more beautiful. And that's what I mean when I was talking about the palatable Blackness. And while there were dark-skinned counterparts, they were pushed to, margins or cast as attitude characters. It wasn't just Hollywood. This hierarchy showed up in real life too, in schools, at jobs, even in our own communities. Lighter skin meant more attraction, more access, and more assumptions of softness or beauty. And it wasn't always spoken, but it was felt. The trauma of being too dark, too nappy, and I use that word in quotes. I hate that word, but listen, this is what was being said. Or too loud. These are words that set heavy for a generation of Black girls who then internalized that proximity to whiteness was the ticket to being treated better. And then there were the perms, right? I can't even lie. I had a perm up until 2010. My mama always permed my hair. And in 2010, I definitely decided on my own that I wanted to be natural. But nonetheless, the perms, that was the beauty standard of the time, right? To have good hair, quote unquote, in the 90s meant having it laid, bone straight, and preferably, shoulder length or longer. Perms were more than a style. They were a form of social protection. So for many, a perm made you more presentable, more professional, more appropriate. But at what cost, right? The psychological impact was real. Young girls learned early that their natural texture was not beautiful. It was something to be corrected. That burning scalp, that breakage, the hours in the salon chair, those were seen as a rite of passage and you had to go through it. Doesn't matter the cost. It wasn't about choice, it was about survival in a system that punished authenticity. But again, despite this, there were pockets of resistance. Queen Latifah, Lauryn Hill, and TLC challenged the narrative. They brought Afrocentric aesthetics, natural textures, and unapologetic presence to the mainstream. And that's what we needed as a community, right? We needed that. They showed us that Black beauty wasn't monolithic. It was powerful, it was layered, and rooted in something deeper than aesthetics. And then we entered the 2010s, and with it, social media, right? I just made a video about this, so if you want, go check it out. I have a link down below. But Instagram and YouTube cracked open the gatekeeping. Suddenly, Black women weren't waiting for a seat at the table. They were building their own platforms. We were building our own platforms. We saw everyday creators breaking down, the twist outs, the braid outs, the flat twists, the flexi rod sets, and with that, with styling natural hair, also calling out brands that still only had 5 shades of beige, right? That Black is Beautiful movement reemerged, but this time with the receipts and the reach. And that's important, the reach. It wasn't just about quote unquote being seen, it was about being seen on our own terms. Dark-skinned girls were finally getting praised for their melanin. This was really a beautiful time, especially like as a creative and a young person watching creatives. Me specifically, I love YouTube. I'm sorry. It is literally my favorite social media platform. But I remember as an adolescent watching these beautiful Black women do their twist outs, do their braid outs, and that's what inspired me to be natural. So the reach is always important. Type 4 hair wasn't just accepted, it was celebrated. Makeup lines like Juvia's Place, hair care brands like Michele, Camille Rose, they started dominating because they knew us. But let's hop into the psychology of it, right? Because although it was a beautiful era, it was also a very complicated era, specifically for Black beauty, right? This is an era where pride and pressure coexisted. On one hand, we saw the rise of the natural hair movement, right? Like I just said, I was a part of that movement. Black women were doing the big chop, creating YouTube tutorials, learning their curl patterns, their porosity, and proudly showing their curls and kinks, right? Going natural was framed as a radical act of self-love, almost like a return to self after decades of assimilation. But on the other hand, weaves, lace fronts, and sleek aesthetics, it was also still booming. The Instagram baddie aesthetic was dominating. Full laces, laid edges, 30-inch bundles. Love me a 30-inch. And hyper curated perfection. That was the image that was starting to come to light. The message became muddy a little bit. Be natural, but polished. Be raw, but still be aspirational. Be yourself, but filter it. You get what I'm saying? There was a real psychological tug of war happening, especially online. Some women felt shamed for still wearing weaves or relaxing their hair, while others felt alienated by the rigidity of natural hair purity. And that was very much a thing. You weren't just choosing a hairstyle, you were picking a side. This era was full of cognitive dissonance. If I love my natural hair, why do I still crave a silk press for confidence? Or am I betraying myself if I wear a frontal for my birthday? Right? These are real things that people were battling with. These weren't superficial choices. They were decisions loaded with identity, politics, and desirability, and ultimately trauma. For many, wearing a weave didn't mean self-hate. It meant versatility, convenience, and creativity. But the digital beauty culture was so perfection-driven that it often created more anxiety. Your wash and go had to be defined. Your fro had to be shaped just right. Even natural beauty started to feel like another performance. Ultimately, the 2010s gave us more freedom, but also more rules disguised as freedom. For sure, no doubt about it. More products, more influencers, more tutorials, more opinions. For many, beauty became a second job. This was a decade where being a Black woman meant being hyper aware of how you showed up, and whether you rocked a twist out or a 30-inch bust down, someone always had something to say. Now, fast forward to today, the 2020s. This era I like to call the era of inclusion, but also audacity, right? So, although we're finally seeing more Black women gracing magazine covers, leading brands, and shaping the beauty industry from within, there's more visibility, more shade ranges, and more texture representation. We love to see it. But here's the part people don't like to say out loud. People are starting to want to look like us, right? Full lips, deep tans, curvy bodies, braided hairstyles, almond-shaped nails, laid edges, lace fronts. These are the same features we were once mocked for or punished for and are now being mass-produced, filtered, and sold, often on non-Black faces. This isn't just admiration, a borrowing of a look without the lived experience that comes with it. That's weird. While Black women still face workplace discrimination for protective styles or get racially profiled for their features, those same attributes become trendy, even profitable, on others. So yeah, we're seeing diversity for sure, but we're also seeing a flattening of Blackness into a marketable aesthetic. It begs the question, if everyone looks like us, but we're still the least protected, who's really winning? Answer down below in the comments. I would love to see your responses. However, at the same time, Black women are reclaiming softness, rest, and joy, and we also love to see that. We're pushing back against strong Black woman tropes. We're going barefaced, embracing 4C hair, wearing what we want, and not just what flatters us. But make no mistake, the 2020s are not just about celebration. It's not. We've come far, but we still have a long way to go. Let's switch gears, slow it down, and talk about why this all matters. The pressure to meet any beauty standard, especially as a Black woman, is exhausting. It creates a constant state of performance. And the closer you try to get to this ideal state, the more that standard moves. This psychological strain shows up as body dissatisfaction, skin tone anxiety, product obsession disguised as self-care. I'll definitely be making a video about that. Or that constant feeling of being almost enough. Even at our most beautiful, we still hear, but what if you straightened it? But what if you get too dark in the sun? But are you sure that nose contour is subtle enough? Are you sure? Are you this? It's always something that we have to hear. It's not just about looks, it's about worth and how it gets assigned. So, where do we go from here? We stop chasing the ever-moving target and start dismantling the idea that there's only one way to be beautiful. We move from presentation to presence. That means embracing your real texture, your real tone, your real truth. Supporting brands and creators that reflect us, not just market to us. Teaching the new generation that their beauty doesn't require validation. Now, I'm not saying that you have to, wear your natural hair 24/7. That's not what I'm saying. You can do whatever you want with your hair. But just understand that beauty isn't a trend. It's not the 90s, it's not the 2020s, it's timeless, it's expansive, and it's ours. If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments, which era do you feel most shaped you? And how are you redefining beauty for yourself today? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive. This is Rikeya Michele. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are already the standard. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Mwah.